at James Madison University in Harrisburg, Virginia, there is a rock that's dedicated to the brothers of Omega Psi Phi, a black fraternity, a historically black fraternity. It was painted in honor of Jeffrey Matthews, a recently deceased member, only to find that it was repainted by a Trump supporter to equal, so it says Trump Train, Trump 2016. You know, here's the thing. Millions of Americans are very nervous about Donald Trump, right? And very nervous about what he could do. Now, I know I said earlier in the show that if I had to pick between Donald Trump and Ted Cruz, I'd pick Donald Trump. But let's talk about what's happening specifically in this particular story, right? So last week, Jeffrey Matthews Jr., a 2015 graduate of James Madison University in Harrisburg, Virginia, passed away. On Saturday, friends and classmates and brothers spent hours creating a memorial for him on Spirit Rock, a large stone in the middle of campus that is used for a communal space for campus events, rallies, and activities. When they woke up on Sunday morning, they found that someone had defaced the memorial by spray painting over it with the words #TrumpTrain and Trump 2016. Now, James Madison University released this statement. While we have no reason to believe that the repainting of Spirit Rock had anything to do with an expression of support for a political candidate, we recognize, for some, it only adds insult to injury during this time of loss. This was either a blatant, cowardless lie as part of the university. The political events of the last few months have shown us that Donald Trump supporters have weaponized his name and used it as a code word to threaten minorities. Now, you've seen this over and over and over again. There's been a number of Trump rallies where African American protesters, who have protested all the presidential candidates, by the way, have been assaulted, they've been punched in the face, they've been sprayed with mace, all sorts of things for expressing their First Amendment right. Now, there have been some that have indicated they shouldn't go to these rallies, and here's where I'm at on this one. You have the freedom of speech. So if you want to go stand in front of a Trump rally and say Trump is a racist, you should have the right to do that. And the fact that Trump is now pushing this bigotry notion by saying you should punch him in the face and I will pay for your legal bills is what he said, quote. It's very problematic. And here's the thing. We live in a post-Black Lives Matter society now, where I feel as though instead of our country moving forward, we're moving backwards on race relations. You don't have to take my word for it. A recent Gallup poll found that 68% of Americans think race relations have gotten worse. Now, they blame Barack Obama. Here's the problem with the blaming of Barack Obama. Barack Obama is not a racist, because to be a racist, it requires that you have power over another race, right? And Barack Obama, as a black man, when he was elected, did not have power over white people. I mean, 99.9% of the Congress is white. Ta-da! But herein lies the problem. When Barack Obama was elected, there was a group of people who, one, began to hate him, and another group of people who were like, oh, look, we've elected a black president to the highest office of the land. We now live in a post-racial society. And so because we live in a quote-unquote post-racial society, they think, these individuals, that it is okay to do blatantly racist things, i.e., police officers killing unarmed African-American men for doing nothing. Or what we saw in the George Zimmerman trial, where a random guy thinks it's okay to shoot a black guy because he looked scary. Or in the Jordan Davis case, where an individual says, you're playing your music loud, I'm going to shoot you in the face because of it. So we now, and I think what happened after that was a mass movement of individuals, a millennial movement of young people, African Americans, queer folks, brown people, white people, some of them, saying, Black Lives Matter, that's in question. The response to that has been really, really racist, awful rhetoric, right? And we've seen a double standard, right? So when African Americans take to the streets and they engage in these type of protests, right, they're tear gassed, they're beaten. But in Oregon, a group of Ted Bundy supporters can lock themselves, take over a federal building, not one dies, not one gets tear gassed, not one gets hurt. Obviously different circumstances, but obviously different results. So I think you put this all into play and you tie this back into what we saw happen in Harrisburg, Virginia, where a stone was, I would use the word vandalized by a group of individuals who care more about Donald Trump than they do about the loss of a black life, right? Now, yes, Indeed, like the university says, it's just we're in the political season and political things happen. But because Trump's name is, the connotation of Trump is connected to very racist things, i.e. David Duke, i.e. robocalls being put out by white supremacist groups, it seems to me to be a little problematic, right? Like these individuals said, and I don't know them, but you can only make, and you don't want to judge these individuals, but you have to think to yourselves, what possessed you overnight to go to this rock where you saw them honoring an African-American man who's part of a fraternity that's built around volunteerism and community and valor? What would behold you to go and repaint that with Donald Trump, somebody who's based around bigotry and hatred?